Welcome to the NEPA Scene Podcast. This is episode 7. We are going to do a year wrap-up in this episode. So we don't have a guest or anything. It's just us hanging out, just kind of reminiscing about our year and everything that went on in the arts and entertainment scene in the area. So let's very quickly, I don't want to take up too much time with this because we have a lot of ground to cover. Just the stuff that's going on the site. We have an interview with comedian Dan Hoppel that's coming out this week. Thank you for your patience, Dan. I apologize that it took longer than I wanted, but I've just been busy with other stuff. He's a very funny guy, very interesting guy. He has a really interesting story of how he got into comedy, so check that out. We got an hour-long video of the music that was on Holiday on the Square. So if you're still in the holiday mood as we end the year, to check that out.
Oh, Chris did that, right?
Yeah.
Chris and Mary Frances.
That's right. Chris Bolton gave us the video. It's also airing on ECTV. But it's a very nice video. It's got some holiday music, but it's not all holiday music. And there's plenty of different artists on there, and there's also kind of a slideshow of photos and stuff, and just videos of people shopping around on Holiday on the Square and stuff. It's nice. And
it's a nice contrast to Black Friday or
that's right. Yeah,
crazy shopping.
You can tell everyone's happy to be there. It's very calm.
I need Tickle Me Elmo.
Right. Nobody's ripping everybody else apart. Right. It's really wonderful. Yeah. It shows you what holiday shopping could be like.
Right.
So shop local, I guess, is the lesson to be learned there.
Shop local, save on your emergency room bill.
And we've got lots of photo packages this week. We have everything from the Down to 6 CD release show that was over the weekend.
How was that?
I didn't get to go, unfortunately.
I feel like the douche.
I really wanted to.
Yeah.
And I didn't get the opportunity, but from the photos look good, and everybody who went said it was great, and they sounded really good.
They're a bunch of real talented guys.
Yeah. Well, I
don't know them personally, but
The whole lineup was really great that night. Yeah.
I don't know Tool either, but I could say they're a bunch of talented guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've premiered some of their songs on the site, so some of their music is streaming there.
I'm really proud of local recently.
Well,
within the last year or two.
We'll get into that in a second. Actually, of all of the I was just going through the list of CDs that came out this year. Just the albums. I tried to leave out the singles and stuff like that because there's artists release songs here and there, and that format's changing all the time. So maybe albums won't be a thing in the future. But right now, that's still kind of the benchmark that bands go by, and there was just so many to list, and I'm probably missed a whole bunch, which I'll feel bad about after when they message me.
When they scorn you.
Yeah.
When that Scranton fucking sucks guy comes after you again.
Did he post again?
No. You know what though? You want to know a funny coincidence though? There was a gentleman yesterday that the first one that I've had to block from our Facebook.
Really?
Yeah. Well, it was just some guy.
It went that far.
He had. Yeah. He's had a page. Apparently, he started since 2011, and it's just Scranton Sucks. It's just
Oh yeah, that guy.
No, not to be confused with the more famous one. This is just one that somebody started on Facebook. Just another page. The only updates on it are just random words, usually just fuck and on
his Facebook page.
Yes,
Scranton Sucks.
Yes, and
there's another Scranton Sucks page, isn't there?
Yes, there is. There is one that's regularly updated.
Yeah, where it's potholes.
Right.
It looks like mining has happened.
Yeah,
strip mining.
Yeah, there's a lot of memes on there.
Yeah, Scranton's the Scranton Sucks that I think that we enjoy in a totally, I don't know, is the word satirical?
Yeah.
In a satirical way is Scranton.
Yeah, the only reason I had to block this guy is not because he thinks Scranton sucks. It was because he was using a racial term to refer to a guy who posted his music on the page.
Really?
Yeah. He had to go and drop some N-bombs, so I had to get rid of him.
For what?
No real reason. He spammed the same thing about 20 times, I guess, because he's got nothing better to do.
Like copy paste?
Yeah. Just what did he say? A derelict nigger or something like that.
Derelict?
Yeah, nigga. And he spelled it Nigga. And that was I didn't understand the point, but it was all over his own page too. If you went to the guy's Facebook, it was just that posted over and over again. So,
Was he a psycho?
I don't know. I don't know if he thinks it's funny or what. But
I don't want to get into a broad national topic, but Jesus, for people who are like racism's dead, I really don't think so.
No.
And I know this is like a heavy
There's some
topic,
people that
and
keep it alive.
Yeah, this guy does.
well, yeah, and
Like this guy's life is just filled with hate.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like,
to have nothing better to
yeah,
do.
like seriously, like you're gonna sling that from like your IP address? Like, what a pussy.
Oh yeah, exactly.
He's probably like some white supremacist that's gonna come after me now. But anyways,
I mean, it is a hot topic of the year, and I don't have to remind anybody about what's going on.
but but here's the thing: it's local too.
It is local too.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just as much good as we have the bad, and it doesn't hurt
Mhm.
to point out that
Right.
we're a special place, but we're not
Sure.
special enough to be devoid of ignorance and intolerance.
On the bright side, if anybody in the world can prove their ancestry back to Spain in 1492, and they are of Jewish descent, they can actually get Spanish citizenship because of the exile from Spain, apparently. I heard this on NPR. But that's like one of those
So
steps.
you have to do a 600yearancestry.com.
Actually, yes, but that's kind of difficult.
and all you get out of it is citizenship.
You know how hard it is to get EU citizenship, though? It's
I don't
almost
know.
impossible.
It's hard enough to get citizenship in West Side, man.
But I'm saying there's things going on in the world to start healing these things that have gone on. And just because something happened in 1492, you don't forget.
That's when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. On the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Monica.
Well, at least according to the victors in history.
Yeah,
Yes.
I always tell Jimmy this. I'd say, Jim, history is written by the victorious. It's never written by the people who lose the battle.
Oh, I thought it was history was written by Victor all these years. I thought it was just some guy.
Von Doom. It was written by Victor Von Doom.
Oh, I wish.
That would have been awesome.
It would be the best.
I hate the Human Torch.
And it would all be in first person, which would be great too.
Yes.
It'd all be him talking in the third person as
Monologuing on
Doom
history.
this, doom that. Yeah, it would be fantastic.
Actually,
I mean, bringing up that, I don't know. Is it apropos to like even bring it up, especially like with what happened in New York recently? I mean, is that like, because I know there's like this big social discussion, and I don't want to. You could tell me to like let's skip, which I'm totally fine with. But I think it bothers me, this idea of like,
this is what it's come to.
I know, like, doesn't that, like it really is. You know what I mean? Like both sides of the race issue has its own set. It's like fundamentalist religion. You know what I mean? Like they have like their crazies. Not all Catholics are bad. Not all Jews are bad. Not all Muslims are bad. But everybody has like their own little crazy.
Everybody
sects
has
or
a crazy
offsets of
uncle.
Yeah, and I think with the protests and stuff going on, some of it could be considered race baiting and stuff like that. And you're from New York. I mean,
I was in New York.
But do you think it was all right for the cops to turn their back to the mayor?
That's interesting. At the funeral,
It was twice. It was at the press conference and at the funeral.
I'm not.
I don't mean to get off topic, right? If you're
I'm
just like,
sorry.
we're moving on.
Yeah, we probably just should. Because that's
All right.
yeah.
I'll save that for my
We're in
my
NEPA.
diary at
We're not
home.
in New York.
Well, I'll put it to you this: we did a couple weeks ago. A photographer, Keith Perks, who's been sending us stuff. He actually went to New York and he shot some of the protests there a few weeks ago
on his own, not with
yeah. And he said, do you want the photos? Like I'm looking to post them somewhere. And I said, yeah, why not? Like it. There wasn't, and all the reaction on Facebook and stuff was positive. People liked the photos. There was no it didn't turn into a big debate or anything like that, which I was kind of thankful for. At the same time, I was like waiting for that one guy to be like, "Oh, you're arts and entertainment. What's this? Why is this here?" and whatever. And it's like, to me,
but arts and entertainment all fuels into the social consciousness and what's going on. It's an extension of
And
art is the thing that holds the mirror up to what's going on in the world. Without that, we wouldn't have had Imagine by John Lennon.
If you've ever been to a protest or an occupation in New York, a lot of it is arts and entertainment.
It is
oriented,
right?
It's a beautiful experience.
Well, there was one of the photos was a guy who he was or a woman, I couldn't tell honestly because the costume was really well done, but it looked like Lady Liberty, and she was in a chokehold and on the ground and everything, and it was all like spray painted different colors and stuff like that. It was really interesting, but stuff like that you don't normally see. Like just those particular shots, and he did a little video too.
But that's like. To me, like that's the maybe it is the beautiful thing about art is because in one image or in one piece of art, you could say, a novel,
right,
of what is going on.
Yeah, the image says it all.
Yeah.
It's as a writer, it's even more frustrating because it's like I just
can't show it.
Yeah, well, I'm here, typing for hours and hours, and
this guy goes,
your photo says it all.
At a certain point, all the yelling and screaming this is a classroom thing. You can yell and scream all you want. When everyone's yelling and screaming, nobody listens. As soon as you start talking very quietly, everybody has to be very quiet around you in order to listen.
My grandfather told me that.
And sometimes
he goes, if you want people to listen to you, talk real quiet. Because they don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And what that does is it calms down the situation. Like, let's not be incensed. Is that the correct word? Incensed. Let's not be incensed with what's going on. I mean, let's be incensed, but like let's talk about it like adults. Because nothing gets solved with fuck you. You never come to a common ground with that. That happens in friendships too. Like it's you know what I mean? It's not just like how would you handle a situation personally rather, the whole social dichotomy of the whole thing. How would you? And I think that's the simple reason to do it. I don't know. I watched a lot of documentaries since Christmas. The Internet's Own Boy. I watched that. Did you see that yet?
No.
It's about Aaron Swartz, the co-founder of Reddit, who was.
Yeah.
You know that whole story.
Yeah.
Watch it. It's really good.
Okay.
Do we want to get into the year then? Just all the stuff that went on.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry for my.
No, I'll list them and then we can just kind of go off on whatever we want to talk about. And,
Okay.
I mean, in fact, since we're on the topic of movies already, I think the big movie this year in the area anyway was the Kids for Cash documentary.
Yeah, I watched that.
And so, what were your feelings on it?
What's the best way to? I don't think the story. Look, when you make a documentary, there's no such thing as you kind of have to take a side. You know what I mean? Like you can't just. It's not verite. It's not like it is what it is. Like I think the only true form of documentary is like a closed circuit camera. Whatever we get, we get. When you start editing, it takes a side. And I know that they try to remain biased is the word I'm looking for. You end up being biased in some degree. It's that's a horrible, corrupt situation, and I think I was very unfulfilled by the end of it, and not as a moviegoer or as a movie enthusiast. I think there was more to the story. Like I wouldn't have minded it being like 3 hours long,
right?
Just to get more to the nitty gritty of it. To show how really truly bad it was.
What I did enjoy about it was what was unexpected because obviously as a newspaper guy and everything, I'd followed the story for years.
Were you at the paper when that was going on?
Yeah, I was actually.
Did you ever report on it?
I didn't. I was just on the outskirts of it because my beat didn't have anything to do with it. So there were days where I did have to run over to the courthouse to hold a camera, get a video, things like that. Help out. But I was never one of the main reporters on it. I just kind of watched it, which was also an interesting perspective.
The mom. Whose son committed suicide was heartbreaking.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like and who is Chivarella?
Yeah,
he was the one who was.
He was the main one.
Yeah, he was primarily, and he was just like
Conahan was the other.
But he was never really, at least as far as the documentary portrayed him. I watched Romney when it came out on Netflix, and I was like an anti Romney guy, and I watched Romney, and I'm like, oh, he's just like he's like a guy, like he's not like. Mm. He has a family, he has feelings, he has all this stuff, and the judge just seemed unremorseful. Like he wasn't even like apologetic for it. He wasn't even.
No, I honestly, you can't feel bad for him in that sense. The only way you could feel bad for him is that he's deluded. Like you feel like this guy is just so delusional. And that he's convinced himself of it. It's like how people righteous. Cope with certain things. Yeah. Well, that's what I really what I liked. I thought one of the main messages of it that surprised me was that they took this approach of saying this was all our fault. This was not just some sick mastermind who was making money off of sending kids to jail. This was something where the first thing that they show you is one of his commercials when he was running for judge.
Yeah,
and basically he was running on this campaign of we need to be harder on these kids and we need to put them away and that we need to show them who's boss and that sort of thing.
That's
like
not
be
what
tough.
You need.
But the thing is the community loved it. They were all about it, and that's how he got elected over and over. Because he ran on this zero tolerance thing. And when they examined zero tolerance, that's what I thought was the most interesting part of it, because then it became the national debate. It wasn't just talking about what was going on here, but questioning just the very idea of zero tolerance and how messed up that is.
Yeah.
As kids, we all make mistakes. We all do silly things. And the idea of zero tolerance.
These were kids who were like getting in trouble for like throwing dinner at somebody.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, this was real. I think one of the silliest ones was the girl who made a website. And she just was poking fun of her principal. It was essentially the digital version of drawing a doodle in class of how ugly the principal is or how goofy the teacher looks or whatever. It was essentially that, and they put her away like a hardened criminal. And a lot of these kids, as they show, they never recover from that, because once they're in the system and they're used to living on the inside of that, they don't know how to live on the outside. Once they get out, they end up right back in. So some of them end up kind of going on to do normal things, or, one girl, ends up kind of helping other people that are in that situation. But, other ones where you could tell this kid was never in trouble in his life and he was never going to get in trouble in his life, now is just a member of the system forever. Like he's never going to escape that.
And there used to be
crazy.
There used to be the day when the police showed up and they were like, "Stop doing that."
Well, yeah, and that's
your mom's your parent or your dad's your parent. Like, stop doing that. The other thing is like these kids. A lot of them were like, not all of them, but some of them were broken home kids who are like, to add insult to injury. It's like, oh, not only, is your life not as quote unquote normal as it could be, you're now a criminal.
Yeah.
For doing nothing.
Right. Or something as simple as, this kid said something to me and I pushed him and that was it. It's something that all kids do. I did it in school too. Yeah. I was picked on, and sometimes you stand up for yourself. And a lot of times that was the case. It was just somebody standing up for themselves, and they end up, just becoming part of this horrible machine. And just I thought it was funny too. Chivarella goes, when I was a kid, I got in trouble sometimes too. And then, then the cop would give me a ride home and a stern talking to and that sort of thing. And I'm like, so if that worked for you and you're saying that was effective and that
He
made you
said
the
that.
guy that you are today, have you ever stopped to think, well, maybe that's what we should be doing for kids today? And if it worked then why do they have to go to prison now? You know?
Well, instead of sending you to jail, right? Let's bring you in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Let's say hey, you could be here. Just be smart.
And these kids never even got a fair chance in the courtroom.
No, they were told never to have lawyers. They were told never to
Yep.
you know what I mean? And then all these kids get sent away and what do the parents do? They don't know. They're not legal,
Right.
experts. And they're just oh no.
Yeah.
I don't know. That movie, anybody who hasn't seen it, you should see it. But it's heartbreaking. It's infuriating, and it's educational. I just wish there was,
Yeah. That there was
coming from a curiosity side. I wish there was more to it.
It leaves you wanting more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, music wise, we've had so much going on in the past year, and, it comes up a lot on the site and the podcast. Here's just a list of just the ones that I could find right away, just to, while I was browsing around today and kind of going through stories I wrote this year and stuff.
I do have my favorite local album this year.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, you let me know what it is.
I will when you're done.
Okay.
Because I think we should recognize the great talent locally.
Okay. Speaking of Down to Six earlier, Down to Six just put out their new album, Atlantic. Social State, How to Get to Heaven. Dakota, Kindness. Fire with Friends, Ghost House. The Great Party, New Laws. Suze, Sounds from Thursday Evening. Ew You Boo, Keep Dreamin'. Coal Town Rounders, Numero Uno. Grace's Downfall, Change, Adjust, Continue. Blinded Passenger, The Electric. Threat Point, Careful What You Wish For. Ion Attraction, Staircases. Three to Breathe, Life After Survival. Without a Martyr, who actually just broke up this week.
Did they?
Yep. They put out the Pitch Black EP, so I guess
They were
that's
heavy.
their one and only. Young guys, so I'm sure
They'll bounce back.
I'm sure they're going to do more. I can't imagine
The
them
thing
giving
about
it up.
musicians is they break up all the time.
Exactly.
You
And then
just
they
gotta
form
keep-
something else.
You just
and-
got to keep pushing through.
Yep. Jack Woodbridge. You don't know Jack.
Jack.
You guys did the video for that.
Yeah.
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 Dustin Douglas and the Electric Gentleman. Black Skies and Starlight.
One of the best guitar players I've ever seen.
Yeah, and he was a fun interview too. We did a story with him a couple months back, and the two big ones this year in terms of scope and everything, because they're both signed. The Menzingers put out Rented World, and Motionless in White put out Incarnate, and they're both Reincarnate, and they're both on major labels, and they're both out of the area now. But they still come back home rather often. They've both been back home this year, actually. So we'll mention the Menzingers in a little bit. So what was your favorite
Of the year,
Yes.
I absolutely loved a Social States album.
Yeah, that might be the top one. I think,
and it's not to down
no.
any other band. Dakota is really good. Blinded Passenger is really good. Uyu Boo is really good. It was just it was weird because Ed Kuzo from a Social State, he stops by, hangs out every now and again. I love him to death. He's the most humble, gracious, appreciative musician I've probably ever ran into. He's like, hey man, this is like nine months before they released it. He's like, hey man, you want to hear the album? And I'm like, yeah. And he's sitting there going because he had it, but they just couldn't release it yet.
Mm.
And I'm listening to it, and I'm looking at him, and every track, I'm like, Ed, this is amazing. And he's like, oh man, do you really think so? And I'm like, dude, this is one of the best albums I've ever heard. And from front to back, it's awesome. It starts off the way it needs to start off, and it ends on such a high note. And I said to him, I said the last track, for the life of me I forget it, but I said to him, I'm like if I could write this song, and I'm not a musician, but if I could write this song, I'd be absolutely. That's it. I've peaked. Like that's how good the last track is on that album. I love it.
Jimmy, do you have a favorite this year?
You're gonna have a couple favorites next year.
Yeah, definitely. I honestly, I know I listened to A Social State. Some of the other albums that you mentioned, I didn't get a chance to listen to.
Sure.
So it wouldn't really be fair for me to make a judgment. But I know
I really gravitated toward the Social.
Well,
State
definitely,
album.
yeah. And I had some exposure to a couple different bands from having live performances here at the studio. And again, I really appreciate. There's a wide variety of different music from heavy metal to more acoustic rock to we had people here that were mainly doing things to backing tracks or whatever. But yeah, I agree. A Social State was a phenomenal album, and I might be biased on this, but I know we have an album being released soon.
It was just
Tom
announced
Graham.
today.
Yeah, from Tom Graham, and that was a project that he and I started maybe about 4 or 5 years ago when I had the studio at my parents' house in the
It couldn't
living
have been
room.
that long. Is it really that long?
Yeah, it was like 2009, 2010.
Wow.
And
No,
we
weren't we
went
here.
no, we went no. Nope.
We weren't here yet.
No, because I had all my gear.
That's
up at
right.
My parents'
Yeah, you're
house.
right. Yeah.
So, and I was, so we recorded it basically in the living room of my parents' house, and then a couple different events happened that kind of put the album on hold. And last summer into the beginning of this year, this fall, he was, let's get the album going again, let's get it finished, because we were about 85% of the way there. We just really had to put down a couple, new vocal parts and orchestration parts and things like that. So we finally finished it. We recorded it here, mixed it up at Windmill Studio with Eric Ritter, and I think he sent it out to somewhere in Chicago to have it mastered. But I'm very happy with the way it turned out. So
I can't wait for people to hear it, man.
I'm excited just to hear feedback because I co-produced that with Tom, and we bounced all of our ideas off of each other. And I'm just curious to see feedback and see how people receive it. So
And that's coming out in February?
I believe so.
I
Yes.
think it was February. Oh, I feel awful. I think it was February 10th.
Okay.
I think that's the date.
Because I just received the release like maybe a few minutes before we started, actually. So,
Yeah, I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's February 10th. It honestly, it's a really good album.
We spent a lot of time on each track. And, when you're working on an album with different tracks, it's nice to be able to have the luxury of bouncing back and forth when you feel like you've exhausted yourself on one track. But we spent so much time just making sure each song had its own unique signature to it. And we kind of pushed ourselves creatively. We would think it would be there, and I would suggest something to Tom or Tom to me. And to the point where we were pointing out little things that the average listener would never even hear. But we took it to a level even where when we were mixing it, when you wear a pair of headphones and listen to it, you get a whole experience in itself. So we paid attention to all little details.
I'm really excited for that. I think that's going to be awesome. Not to
And that was recorded right here in the studio.
It was recorded.
Yeah,
it was recorded
started
in
at my
the
parents'
living
house
room.
and finished here. Yeah. And then at Eric's studio, he had his mixing console was owned by the Bee Gees.
Wow.
So we got to finish it we'll mix it through the console.
Yeah, but our mixing
That's pretty
console
cool.
is from where?
WVIA, and it had a lot of polkas run through it.
We have the WVIA polka console.
Yeah.
So chicken in your pants.
So yeah.
So look for that.
Stanky and the Coal Miners and
Look for that polka influence.
What was his name?
Stanky and the Coal
Stanky and
Miners
the Coal Miners.
and Jan Levon and those guys.
That always sounded like a band that would be on Ren and Stimpy.
Stanky and the Coal
Miners.
Yeah, Rocco's Modern Life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the two.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I would think of.
No, Tom's album, and I know we're doing a lot of free press for him, but Tom's album's going to be killer. And I hope upon hope that the world receives it as well as we are excited to have the world receive it. I don't even know if that was a sentence.
No,
I'm not sure if it
that makes
was.
sense.
Yeah, it was more like it was a free write.
Okay.
I know
That's
what you
what I
were
did.
trying to say.
I know, baby.
I know he's friends with the Cabinet guys, and they had their second annual festival this year, the Old Farmers Ball, which ended up becoming the Susquehanna Breakdown from now on. I guess there was a conflict with the name. There was already an Old Farmers Ball somewhere else, so they had to change it.
That's all right, man. They keep Bill Orner is a a force to be reckoned with.
A brilliant manager and marketer.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And he's so like chill and cool and
right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
I love Bill. I think Bill's brilliant.
Yeah. And
not a bad musician either.
And no, definitely not. And a lot of actually one of the videos in the video that I mentioned earlier that we have on the site, it's Bill Orner and Tom Graham playing together on at Holiday on the Square. They're one of the artists.
Oh yeah, I saw some of that.
Yeah.
I skimmed through it just because I didn't have like an hour.
Right. Yeah. And that's the good thing about it is you can skip through it and you can find which artist you want to listen to and just do that. So yeah, they did Susquehanna Breakdown, and that was another big event this year.
That was a pretty big success, man.
Well, it's Old Farmer's Ball did really well, and this did even better, and it's just getting bigger and bigger every year. So I'm really happy for those guys that they're having the success that they have with that, because it's a all local festival, featuring a good portion of local bands. There's a couple that they get from out of the area, but they're bands that usually come through here rather often, or that other bands from around here tour with. So it's cool to see something like that at Montage, as opposed to the same old okay, Kiss is here again this year, and they've got the same show they've had the last few years. It's nice to. It's nice to see something like that where it's all original music and all local bands.
They do a lot of networking, man. Like these guys are really intense on their networking and making friends and getting each other's back on a lot of stuff. So I think that's how they get. They had a really good bill this year. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious to see what next year is.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah.
Breaking Ben came back this year.
They did.
In a sense, I know some
baby steps.
Well, some people were on the fence because they're.
I feel bad. Lauren knows like none of these bands.
I've heard of Breaking Benjamin.
Okay.
Well, they
are on Rock Band.
They released they reached a national success for a while, and then kind of dropped off, and then they had internal issues with each other.
Some legal drama.
Yep. Ended up kind of parting ways and going on hiatus. But then when Ben came back, the singer, he formed a whole new band. So some people who are kind of purists are like, well, the other guys aren't in it, so it's not really Breaking Benjamin anymore. And then other people are like, well, Ben was kind of the band. He's the namesake. So, essentially he's the one who's the mastermind. So therefore, who cares who the other guys are? But one of the other guys is a local guy, and then the other two, I think, are from other bands from out of state. But we were there and covered them when they did their first comeback show. They did 2 sold out shows as their comeback shows, and then they did a short acoustic tour. And
they just announced a whole bunch of new tour dates too.
Yep. So they have a lot of stuff coming, and it's been a long time coming, because for years and years people said, well, what happened to those guys? So
I'm just really jazzed that Aaron Bruck's in the band, man.
Yeah,
I love Aaron.
Yeah, that's who I was referring to.
Yeah, Aaron's brilliant beyond his.
I've heard he's nothing but a nice guy.
Nothing but a nice guy, and I think he's brilliant beyond his own conception.
Mm. Well, and so it's
comprehension.
It's good that you finally you see people who like that, who work hard. They finally get success.
He deserves it, man.
Yeah,
he's just
great.
A really talented guy. He can write, he can play, he can sing. That's the hat trick, of talent.
I would say I was kind of a passing fan of the band. I'm not like huge on them, but I enjoy them for what they are, and I was happy to see
man. They got a couple killer tunes.
Yeah, and he does a Mean Tool cover when he wants to.
Yes, he does.
So he's got a great voice.
Actually, I was just kidding before. I don't really know Breaking Benjamin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for lying.
Wow. Okay.
I know Cold Town Rounders though.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about them before. You're a big fan of them.
Yeah, I am.
Well, they're real talented guys too.
They are.
Their album. They're also on. Weirdly enough, on that same video that we were talking about earlier. They did all old time like songs on that album, right?
Yeah, a lot of covers.
When you meet those guys, like they're like, oh, we're musicians. Like you never expect that genre of music to come out of those guys,
right?
You know what I mean?
Their harmonies,
their
harmonies are unbelievable.
Oh my god,
yeah.
And they move around without hitting each other in the face with their instruments, which is fabulous.
No, I like Chris and I met through being Instagram friends.
Oh, okay.
That was the first time I met Chris.
Yeah.
And I was out somewhere and he's like, "Hey man, follow your Instagram." And I'm like, it was almost like one of those like, he knows me. He's a real sweet guy.
Yeah,
I've funny too.
Oh, he's hysterical. I've interviewed him a whole bunch of times. That's kind of how I got to know him, and I'd see him around all the time. And he's always very, very cool, gracious guy. I think my favorite thing that I've ever known him to do was I had talked to him right after he was at a rummage sale in somebody's yard, and he bought
Totally sounds like him.
Yeah, he bought a giant cat painting. And I'm talking like the size, like it takes up your entire wall, cat painting. He just saw it there on the lawn, and he's like, I couldn't leave without it. I had to have it. And somebody else was buying it, and he basically convinced the person to give it to him because he wanted it that much.
Really?
Like they were like, wow, I'm so impressed by how much you want this painting that you can have it.
I wanted it, but you really want it.
Yeah, you really want this thing. Yeah. So
I feel like if I don't give this to you, your life will not be complete. If I don't allow you to make this transaction before I think that says a lot about a guy who's that passionate about a cat painting. Yeah.
So yeah, I've always been a fan.
God, I would love to witness that.
So his let's see what's up next. The Factory Underground opened this year. So that's another venue that we didn't have before, because as we'll get to, a lot of venues also closed this year too. So it's nice to see something that opened.
Yeah.
It's a small little club in Wilkes-Barre. The last thing it was a dance club. So it's nice to see. Is
that the one that's all wood? When you go down there,
yeah,
you go into the bowels of this building.
Yeah, the building is surprising because you see it from the front and it just looks like a boring old building, and then you go down these stairs and like there's all this like black light paintings and stuff, and you go because it used to be. Before that, it was a place called the Mines, and so there's all these like the miners and things like that painted on the walls.
Yeah,
and
I've been in there.
Yeah, you go down there, and then it's just this huge club inside, and small stage, but it really it's cool because there's different floors.
It's got a weird It's got an interesting atmosphere.
It does. Yeah, it's really cool, and I've seen a bunch of shows there, and they've gotten some cool acts. So I hope they continue to succeed into next year too. The first annual Electric City Music Conference was this year.
Oh yeah, that did happen.
Yeah, it did happen. Which included the Steamtown Music Awards, which I think overall the whole event was very well received. But it was also, I definitely saw some infighting with bands about who was getting one, and
really,
oh yeah, tons of drama with this person shouldn't have gotten nominated, and blah blah blah, and
really, it's not the Oscars, man.
I know, it's so goofy and so silly, but
like we won best underage venue in the Electric City this year.
Yeah,
we're not a venue,
right? Yeah, they're just kind of one of those things that anyone can vote in. So it doesn't.
So I mean, if it was, if I won, like, I would be just as surprised if I won best hairdresser. You know what I mean?
No, but I mean, in support of that though, there's not that many places that support local music in an environment like ours. Look, and.
In terms of underage shows, you mean?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like we I don't know if I should go into this.
You also do my hair very good.
I would do your hair very good.
If you don't think you should say it, you should say it.
I mean, as far as 25/8 being a venue, I mean, the only reason we had a show in the first place was for the push. So we got together and we were like, hey, can we put on a show here? And we're like, why not? It's a cool aesthetic.
The push has that effect on people.
Yeah, I mean, even if
you pioneer a lot of things,
right? If we were working at a country club, we'd figure out a way. The push would figure out a way to get us in the country club,
right?
To play a gig. No matter where you are, Jim, the push will find a way.
Right, the country club would get into the push, right? In essence.
So, and then from that, like, I just couldn't say no after that. You know what I mean? Because me, like, I want to see I like shows. I like seeing town. I don't like going to shows, but if it's at my house, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know what we're doing for 2015. I just know that it's hectic to do them. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Well, it's a lot of work, and that's that's not primarily what 25/8 is for. You know, that's not what it is.
And it's almost like, you know, if anything, we do like special events, and that's what I guess it would be considered. Like we did the Great Party, did a video release here. The Push, Fire with Friends, Social States record release. I thought was killer. And then we've actually had some national acts come in where like nobody's here. And you're like, oh, we set up all day and 4 people came through the door, and they're like a pretty good band, but you know, so like I said, like I don't know what's happened with 2015. I hope, you know, we can do more, but that needs to be seen because it has to do with finances, and it has to do with mental states.
Right.
Can I handle 6 bands tonight and make sure that like everybody's doing their job?
Well, I feel like you know, do it on your own terms, and do the acts that you want to see. You know, you can't just because I'm sure you probably have people. You know, all these bands are looking for places to go and play and stuff. So I'm sure they're knocking on the door. But you got to be selective with who you put.
No, and I mean, and also like to be totally honest, like we've caught some crap for not putting on shows for certain bands, and it's like, and it's nothing against like, you know, the bands. It's just like we, you know, especially like Jimmy and I, like we have our own type of stuff, you know, that we like,
right?
And being that it's not our primary source of revenue is to be, you know, quote unquote like special event, have shows. We try to be a little selective about like who we want to have here. And look, for me, like I don't care if you're my best friend. If you're good and we like you, like cool. And if it fits,
right,
that's important. The Electric City Music Awards, like we had a lot of hip hop here. And unfortunately, I wasn't here. I was up in Montrose filming a movie. But you know, this and that's no knock at hip hop. We're just really not like a hip hop place.
Yeah.
Like we're more of like a garage band, alternative type of place. Like if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like there's been a couple of, you know, emails and messages where I'm like, and I feel awful, man. Like I want to give an opportunity to everybody and whatever, but it's like you got to figure out if the juice is worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? And if it makes sense, it makes sense, and if it doesn't make sense, then you know.
Well, I mean, I get bombarded with emails and messages and stuff every day, and sometimes I just have to like turn it off and ignore it for a little while and come back to it. Or,
yeah, you got.
Like,
I mean,
you know, like there's just too much.
But nobody out here should think that, like, you know. I mean, you get a lot more inquiries about stuff than I do. You know what I mean? But we both feel bad. About
we both want to do it all.
Yeah, we can't.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of gears at 25/8, and that's just, you know, one of the gears, and it's almost like a gear that you can disengage and the machine won't break down.
Mm-hmm.
If you engage it, it might work a little bit better towards the goal that we're trying to do. But you know, it's just like you got to pick and choose like when to put it in overdrive and, you know, roll with that.
Right,
Jim?
Exactly.
I think the only
I just keep saying shit and you'll just be like,
yep.
Well, until I disagree.
The only other music thing I wanted to mention too is a little festival that I think is going to get bigger to the first Metal Meltdown Festival at Diane's Deli. It was
never even heard of that.
It was cool. At the last publication that I was at, we had sponsored it, and I did a big kind of a metal round table with all the bands that were playing. and we sat down and kind of discussed, the local metal scene and metal music in general and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun. And those guys were really great to work with. And the event was really cool. It was 2 days, lots of bands, mostly local. And then they got a few acts from out of the area. And it was well organized. It was pretty decently attended too. And they were a lot of fun to work with, and they said they want to work with me again next year. So
that sounds absolutely delightful.
Yeah, it was just cool, and they're metal guys in general are just cool cats. They're fun and they're laid back and they're ball busters and they know how to have a good time. And it was just all day metal. Like you couldn't, if you were a local metal fan and you weren't there, like you really missed out. You know, because there's a lot of I know like you see the big stuff that comes through every year, like the Mayhem Festival, the Uproar Festival, and stuff. Which I feel like the lineups are just kind of get worse and worse every year, like or maybe it's just because I'm older now and like the younger bands are taking over and I'm not getting what they're throwing at me, so I'm like not as into it. But you see these people will come out for that every year, and a lot of times they're complaining about the lineup, but they still buy the tickets. And so I feel like stuff like this, people should be coming out and supporting the local bands first, because all of those bands started as local bands at some point or another. So I'm hoping that more and more people will hear about this as it goes on. So I'm sure we'll be promoting that once it kicks into high gear. The theater scene had a lot going on. The vintage,
you can speak about this,
which
right?
Yeah, and please do, Lauren,
because I was never really a theater person per se. Like I worked in theater in high school, but mostly in the background, building sets and doing lights and stuff. But somehow I have ingratiated myself to the theater community in this.
How did that happen?
I don't know. It was just magical, and I just found people in the theater community that were very embracing and
expectum patronus, and then you were just
essentially, yeah. Then they put a hat on me, and then I was put at this table, and then I was part of the house. Yeah.
Great story, Lauren.
That's Harry Potter.
That's how it works in the local theater community,
right?
For those who don't know,
that's how it works, right?
Yeah. You get your sorting hat, and it all works out.
Yeah.
So which house did you end up in?
I was. Let's just say I'm not a Hufflepuff.
Okay, that's fair.
You Gryffindor? You're not?
No, I think she's hinting that she's not.
Oh, okay.
So
there's a lot of good plays this year, man.
There was, and I think Diva Productions was a big one behind that. They did an amazing job, and I think at Lauren's suggestion, I think we should have them on the podcast at some point.
Oh my god!
I want Paige and Bob on.
They'll be. Bob's got the voice, man. Bob's got the voice where it's like, keep talking, Bob. Whatever you want to say.
The Diva has been, moved around to a lot of different venues over the years, but they finally found a more permanent home at the Old Brick Theater in North Scranton.
Main Avenue, yeah.
Yeah.
Or no, Market Street,
Market Street, yeah. And that's where...
And you got to,
it's right off of Main.
You got to give them credit for their tenacity, man. They never... Though Paige and Bob have no idea what the word, quit means, and they've stuck at it, at least... God, they used to be down at the Moonshine,
right?
Which is now the Leonard.
Yeah.
Back in like 2001, 2002, and here we are, 13, 14 years later, man, and they're still going. And it's weird now because it's like they're stronger than ever.
Right.
And they're getting a lot of support and they deserve it.
And I like too that they're picking some ballsy stuff, like they don't have, they have.
Yeah. Let's not play it safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, they did Behanding in Spokane, that we covered earlier this year. And it was so fun to see a show like that where, they just do what they wanted to do a show that's a little more racy, a little more edgy, and it not only worked, but it was sold out like pretty much every night.
Yeah,
like
man.
it was packed,
Yeah.
you know, and that doesn't really happen with local theater.
No.
You know, which it was really great to see. And granted, it's a small venue, so it's not hard to pack the place, but it is when it comes to theater, because people, and I was just having this discussion the other day. I don't know what it is, if it's people feel intimidated by local theater, or if they don't like because the person is right on top of you and they're right there and they're live.
Theater makes me incredibly nervous. And I told Paige this. I'm like, it makes me incredibly nervous because it's, you know, there is no, you know, if you screw up, man, like,
Right.
like to me, you know, theater is, and I have nothing but utmost respect, especially for theater actors, is like, you know, there's
no cutting.
I'm familiar with bands, right? And I've seen bands play a song 1,000 times, and on the 1,001st time they screw it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In theater, like, there's no room for error.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you have to be spot on for 2 hours. You got to hit your marks. You got to hit your moments, especially your lines.
Yeah.
So theater makes me nervous, especially when there's like an oopsie.
Right, because you
I
almost
get
feel
real anxious.
Do you get that feeling like if you're embarrassed for them? You know, like you almost like, if they make a mistake.
And you know what the strange thing is I kind of think that the actor isn't embarrassed.
No, because they know to roll with it.
Yeah, like they're so good at just rolling with it. I think Curb Your Enthusiasm did that when Larry David was doing the producers, and who was it? It was Mel Brooks and oh my God, what was his wife's name?
Oh,
She was in The Graduate. Anne Bancroft. And Larry David was totally screwing up the producers, and they went across the street to the bar, and Mel Brooks and Anne Bancroft are like, "That's it. We're over. Like, we don't have to worry about the producers anymore." And then, like, somehow in the midst of it, Larry David, like, caught back on where he was supposed to be in the script and, like, nailed it. So they were, like, totally disappointed that, like, oh, the producers is still living. You know what I mean? But, like, when you watch that Curb Your Enthusiasm and you see him, like, and it was, like, him and David Schwimmer were the two guys. Max... I don't forget my name. That wasn't even English. It's really uncomfortable to watch, and it was kind of funny to see the opposite side of Mel Brooks being like, "Oh my God, this is finally out of my life. Like, we can put a nail in the coffin of the producers."
Right.
And then, like, Larry David nails it. So, like I said, man, I have utmost respect for theater actors, and I could never. I'd love to try it. I don't think I'd ever be good at it, because memorizing lines to me is just,
it's tough.
that's what you have to do. I mean, like in film or like even like, you know, television commercials or corporate videos or something, usually like you're vomiting the line to them right before they have to say it. And you're basically giving line readings, like, say it like this, you know.
I did theater all through high school, and
That's tough, man. More power to you.
It was fun. I really wanted to pursue that, and then I was like, I was doing the writing thing too, and it was kind of choosing between one or the other at that point, like what I was going to go to school for, and I ended up just leaning towards writing, but I loved acting, and it brought me out of my shell, because when I was a kid, I was mercilessly picked on, and I had I had terrible.
Should we Billy Madison these people?
Oh,
Good thing I called that guy.
Yeah, right. I thought about it. That's for sure. And the kids were. I didn't really have.
Did you go to private school or public school?
Well, I went to private school against my will, and I couldn't convince my parents to take me out of it, and so I suffered through that until 8th grade, and then in high school I got to go to public school, and so then at that point I was able to kind of start over and reinvent myself, because most of the kids went on to more private school, and I didn't. So it was nice to be able to come out of my shell, and I always wanted to get into acting, and I couldn't. Because there really was no theater or acting or anything like that in public school. Or private school. You pay all this money, and everything about that school was awful. I went to St. Pat's, which is now All Saints Academy, and in Scranton, and I hated every minute of it. And it was just wiping away all that brainwashing and stuff like that. Theater kind of helped me be comfortable with myself and come out of my shell and be able to just talk to people. That was the main thing. It's just I was so afraid to open my mouth and have people judge me. And so it was really nice to be able to just say what I wanted to. And if you could do it in front of a classroom full of your peers, you can do it in front of anybody. So at that point, I was able to I forced myself. Essentially, it was
how hard was it to do? Like the first few times.
What's funny is it wasn't that difficult because I knew it was always in me. Like I always wanted to do it. Like I always wanted to be, because it's if you can't be like the handsome guy or the basketball player or whatever, you want to be the funny guy. You want to be the charming guy. And I always thought, I'm funny. I have funny things to say, but no one's going to listen to me here. So
unless I demand your attention from a stage,
right? So when I was able to get up in front of people and make people laugh and see my actual personality, then people were, more, I made more friends that way, and I felt more comfortable. So theater totally changed my life. So I completely have total respect for people who keep at it and continue to do it. And people like the people at the Diva are those type of people that are just sticking with it all these years. And I appreciate that because I'd love to go back one day. I'd love to do.
Why don't you?
A show or something like that. I haven't had the time.
They
that's
hold open
time is the
auditions
tough
for
thing.
every production.
Yeah, I know, and I always contemplate it. I always think about it.
And even if you don't act, Mark, you can engage with the theater in a multitude of other ways, such as Synesthesia Social on Sundays or Drama Club on Tuesdays, where you can go and draw artists or actors. And
my life is dramatic enough.
All the money supports Diva at the Old Brick.
Yep.
And it's a pretty neat situation they got.
Is it like a donation?
Yeah, it's a donation.
How much?
$3 to $5, depending.
That's it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God. And a pack of smokes.
And it's like 3 to 5 hours or something. It's like
$1 an hour.
It's like a ridiculously long period of time, and they get some ridiculous acts. Like the who was it? A couple of weeks ago, they had the New York Chamber Orchestra.
Yes, yeah, they had a couple members of the chamber orchestra, and then the next week they would have like a punk band, and then the next week it would be like a guy with an acoustic guitar. Yeah,
it's incredible.
Yeah, they
on Sundays. I'm never home on Sundays. It's we got to go, Mark.
The artist who has the art on our all our social media and on our website on the top of the page. You see the drawings of the different musicians there. That's Ted Michalowski, and he hosts those socials, and they're a lot of fun. They're really cool. They're different. I mean, where can you go that you can hang out and draw, or just watch a band and be surrounded by all these different types of artists and stuff. It's cool. It's a very unique event that you're not going to find in even a lot of major cities.
Jimmy, you want to give it a shot?
Okay.
No, it's neat. Even if you don't draw, you can just watch whatever act is going on and just sit and hang out.
Yeah, just the atmosphere is fun. It's cool. I did one a few weeks ago. I read some poetry at one of them with a couple of other poets. That was fun. Oh, fun. It's always fun. I've done it a few times, and it's always been enjoyable because it's interesting to be able to read to people and get their reactions right after, because it's such a small, intimate space. So it's not like kind of a stage thing.
But do you do it and get criticism?
No,
I'm not saying like criticism is bad.
People will like right afterwards, say, oh, I liked this one, or this one spoke to me, or what did this one mean, or that sort of thing. And so it's cool to get that direct feedback right away. So it's poetry is kind of my in between, where I get to kind of act a little bit and have the stage thing, but also get to write a little bit too. So I get my It's one of the only because obviously journalism is an art in itself, but sometimes you can't say all the things you want to say or be as personal as you want to be. So that's where the poetry comes in.
Well,
you know who else is a frequent guest on the Sunday event? Doug Smith.
Oh, famous musicians, Doug Smith.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Real talented guy.
Very
Mhm.
talented.
he was playing bass actually while I was doing the poetry. They actually had a couple improv.
Oh, it was like
Yeah, it was improv jazz.
Oh my goodness.
While we were doing the poetry, which is a lot of fun.
That
I've done it
sounds
with Doug a
perfect.
couple times, and Doug is super talented. He catches on right away to what you're doing, and he gets the vibe going, and it's just
that's
it's great.
brilliant.
Yeah, it's cool because I mean, again, like where can you go and do that nowadays? It's such like a beat poetry thing, from back in the day that you don't really see that too often now.
I think it's one of those things where it's like it's just disappointing to me that not so many people know about a lot of the cool stuff that goes on around here.
Right.
You know what I mean? So something like that, like I don't know why it bothers me.
Or they're just dismissive of it. They think, oh, that's not my thing.
It's well, I mean, how do you know you don't like sushi until you try it?
Right. Exactly. I think people should just show up to these things.
Tell it to my
and see
dad all
what
the
it's
time. I'm like, try some sushi. He's like, absolutely not. I'm like, you don't know, man. It's an aphrodisiac. Mom will enjoy it.
Mm.